I never expected the most elegant wedding of the year to turn into a moment that would expose more truth than anyone there was prepared to hear. I also never imagined standing completely alone, without my children, in a ballroom decorated with sparkling chandeliers, crystal champagne flutes, and flower arrangements that looked like they belonged in a Hollywood celebrity wedding magazine, as I stood there in a dress I bought on clearance. Forcing myself to smile through the discomfort, the last thing I expected was to hear my 7-year-old son's voice suddenly echo through the speakers. The DJ had announced that the bride, my cousin Ashley, wanted to share something meaningful, but instead the microphone crackled and I heard a small, steady voice say, "Dear cousin Ashley, I know you didn't want me there because you call me a problem, but I need to tell you something about your fiancé." That moment froze me in place. My heart dropped to my shoes. My mouth went dry. My hands shook so violently I had to grip the edge of my chair to stay upright. I recognized that voice immediately. It was my son, Evan, and I knew he never spoke unless the truth inside him became too heavy to hold. Let me start by telling you who I am and why that moment changed me forever. My name is Harper Collins, and I'm a 32-year-old single mom. I have 2 children who are the center of my life. Evan, who just turned 7 and has the kindest, most perceptive heart I've ever known, and Lily, who is 5 and soft-spoken, always clinging to my arm like she's afraid the world might take me away. I've spent years raising them on my own after my marriage ended, not because of drama or betrayal, but because emotional abandonment slowly suffocated what should have been a real partnership. Even though my kids are still young, they've seen me cry in the kitchen late at night over bills, over exhaustion, and over how some relatives look at us like we are a charity case. They've also seen me smile again because of them. Ashley, my cousin, is 29 years old and the family's self-appointed golden child. She's always been obsessed with image, presentation, and what people think when they glance her way. If she couldn't photograph it, brag about it, or use it to gain admiration on social media, it didn't exist. She once told me, "Life is like a brand. If you don't look valuable, people won't treat you like you are." I laughed nervously at the time, but she wasn't joking. Then there's Aunt Marlene, Ashley's mother, a woman who has mastered the art of smiling while delivering insults with the sharpness of a chef's knife. She once congratulated me on losing baby weight by saying, "See what happens when life stops letting you eat whatever you want?" That's the energy I walked into every family event with. So when Ashley announced her wedding and said it was going to be stunning, classy, and the talk of the town, the family reacted like royalty was getting married. I tried to be happy for her, but I could already feel the pressure building. Soon after, I received my invitation, and I'll never forget the line that was handwritten at the bottom. "Adults only. No children allowed so we can maintain elegance. Hope you understand." At first, I convinced myself it wasn't personal, until during a phone call I heard Aunt Marlene in the background say, loud and clear, "Some children just ruin everything. We cannot risk that." That comment didn't just hit me. It branded itself into my chest. Still, here I was, standing at the reception in my carefully ironed but inexpensive dress, alone, trying not to cry, trying not to feel ashamed, trying not to imagine my kids sitting at home wondering why they weren't good enough. I didn't know that while I'd protected their hearts, my son had silently prepared a message to protect mine. And the moment his voice filled that grand ballroom, everything, every smile, every lie, every carefully posed photo, cracked wide open. Before the wedding drama unfolded, my life felt like a quiet, constant balancing act. Every morning began the same way: alarms, backpacks, cereal bowls, school shoes, and whispered encouragements. Being a single mother didn't mean I regretted anything, but it meant my days required strength I didn't always feel I possessed. I worked part-time as a school receptionist, managing attendance calls, signing late slips, and calming nervous parents while secretly calculating gas money and grocery coupons in my head. I rarely bought anything new for myself because my children always came first. If they had what they needed and felt loved, I considered that a win, even if the world didn't see it as success. Despite the challenges, I never felt lacking when I looked at my children. Evan, my son, carried a quiet wisdom far beyond his 7 years. He wasn't loud, demanding, or disruptive. He was observant, gentle, and deeply emotional. When someone in the room hurt, he noticed before anyone else. He had a habit of placing his small hand on my arm whenever I looked overwhelmed, like he believed touch could heal what words couldn't. Lily, my 5-year-old, was my sunshine. Shy, careful, and always humming little songs while holding her plush bunny. She clung to me not out of fear, but because she felt safest near my heartbeat. My extended family, however, saw my motherhood not as an accomplishment, but a limitation. Ashley, my cousin, grew up differently. Money wasn't a goal for her, it was a given. She didn't just want a good life. She wanted to be admired. She had the perfect Instagram life. Pilates classes, curated outfits, couples vacations, and brand collaboration photo shoots. She once posted, "Surround yourself with people who elevate your status." I noticed she no longer included me in group photos, even at Christmas. Her mother, Aunt Marlene, played a large role in shaping her. Growing up, Marlene constantly praised beauty, wealth, and presentation. She spoke in statements like commandments. People judge first, understand later. Don't settle for anyone who can't upgrade your life. Being ordinary is worse than being disliked. Every time she said these things, Ashley absorbed them like scripture, and I learned to shrink myself in her presence. My mother, who passed away when I was 27, used to tell me, "Grace outlives glitter." Sometimes I repeated those words just to survive family gatherings. When news of Ashley's engagement spread, it traveled like a breaking celebrity headline. She announced it with a cinematic video shot on a beach in California, complete with drone footage and dramatic music. She captioned it, "Found my forever. Elegance always finds elegance." The comments from relatives were filled with praise, while mine were quietly ignored. 2 weeks later, I received my invitation. White, heavy, gold-foiled, sealed with wax. It looked like something from a royal event. I read the printed text twice, feeling honored that she still thought of me. Then I saw the handwritten note at the bottom. Adults only. No children allowed. We want an elegant environment. Just imagine the photos. Hope you understand. Ashley. At first, I rationalized it. Maybe it was about noise, schedule, venue rules. I told myself not to be sensitive and placed the envelope on the kitchen counter. But that night, while I was making mac and cheese for dinner, my phone rang. It was Ashley. I answered, trying to sound cheerful. "Harper, just checking that you got the invite," she said. "Yes, I did. Thank you." "It looks beautiful," I replied. She paused a moment before lowering her voice. "I'm really happy you're coming. I know weddings can be overwhelming for moms. It'll be a night for adults to enjoy without distractions." Just as she finished speaking, I heard Aunt Marlene in the background, her tone sharp and unfiltered. "Well, we all know some children can ruin everything, especially the emotional ones." My hand tightened around the phone. Ashley didn't deny it, didn't correct it, didn't say that's not true. She simply said, "Gotta run. Love you," and hung up. When I ended the call, I found Evan standing at the hallway corner. He didn't say a word. He just stared at me with wide, hurt eyes. Moments like that are when motherhood feels both powerful and shattering. I knelt down and hugged him, whispering, "You are not a problem. You are my miracle." He nodded, but I saw something change in his expression. A silent promise being born. The day of the wedding arrived faster than I expected. While everyone else in the family seemed to treat it like some royal coronation, I spent the morning staring at my reflection, reminding myself that showing up alone didn't make me less of a mother, a woman, or a worthy family member. I curled my hair, did light makeup, and slipped into a navy blue dress that I found on clearance a week earlier. I practiced a smile that didn't betray anything, even though I felt a knot twisting beneath my ribs. In the living room, Evan and Lily sat quietly, dressed in their pajamas, their faces unusually thoughtful. Evan reached for my hand and asked, "Are you sure I can't come just to sit in the back?" His voice was quiet, hopeful, but heavy with understanding. Lily hugged my leg, whispering, "I be quiet, Mommy. I won't spill anything." The innocence in their offers cut deeper than any adult insult ever could. I knelt between them, kissed their foreheads, and said, "You are both perfect. This isn't about you." But inside, I wished I could change the world fast enough to prove it. When I stepped outside, Evan stood at the door, watching me leave. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He just stared, deep-eyed and silent, and something inside me told me he wasn't done processing what had happened. The venue was extravagant, towering white pillars, marble steps, velvet carpets, and photographers stationed like paparazzi. As I walked in, the event coordinator scanned the guest list, looked up, and asked loudly, "No children with you, correct? Bride's rule. We can't have surprises." Her tone didn't include curiosity. It contained judgment. Several people turned to look. I forced a polite nod, though I felt heat rising in my cheeks. Inside the reception hall, chandeliers dripped crystals like frozen rain, and every table centerpiece was bigger than my monthly grocery budget. Guests mingled with champagne glasses, complimenting each other's outfits with exaggerated enthusiasm. When I approached my assigned table, a woman I vaguely recognized said with a smile that didn't touch her eyes, "Oh, you're Harper, right? The cousin with 2 little ones? It must be relaxing being away from them for once." I answered softly, "They're good kids," but she had already shifted her attention elsewhere. A few minutes later, Aunt Marlene approached, wearing a sparkling silver gown and an air of superiority so thick it felt like perfume. She looked me up and down and said, "You look much better without the stress of little hands tugging at you. See how elegant suits you when you're not in mommy mode?" I responded as calmly as I could. "Elegance isn't about who's allowed beside you." Her lips tightened, but she quickly spotted another person to impress and walked away. Then came Ashley. Dressed in a couture lace gown, she glided toward me like someone floating instead of walking. She opened her arms and kissed the air near my cheeks, careful not to smudge her makeup. "Harper, I'm really glad you're here. I hope tonight gives you a break. You deserve some adult time." Her voice sounded sweet enough, but I caught the familiar undertone of condescension. I stayed pleasant, responding, "Thank you. It's beautiful." She leaned closer and whispered, "And thanks for respecting the rule. Not everyone would. I just really needed everything picture perfect." Her words stung, but something else tugged at my attention. Her eyes. She wasn't just anxious about children or spilled juice. She kept glancing toward the entrance, toward the side hallway, toward the groomsmen, and especially toward Derek, her fiancé. He looked handsome, charming, and confident, but there was a coldness in his gaze, like a man who played a role rather than lived a truth. I overheard 2 bridesmaids whispering near the restroom door. One said, "Did she check his phone again?" The other replied, "She's terrified tonight blows up like last time." My heart paused. Last time? Later, while waiting in line for hors d'oeuvres, I saw Derek slip outside, speaking quickly on his phone, shielding it with his hand, his jaw tense. When he came back in, his smile was delayed, forced, and clearly separate from his eyes. Ashley noticed and subtly bit her nail, trying to hide panic beneath perfection. Meanwhile, what I didn't know was that Evan had noticed too, days earlier. Long before I dressed for the wedding, long before the speeches, long before the DJ's announcement, he had gathered his own truth, and the world was moments away from hearing it. By the time dinner was served, I had mastered the art of staying invisible. I ate quietly, nodded politely, and kept my attention on anything that didn't require conversation. I wanted to exist without being analyzed, graded, or compared. But somewhere across town, while I pretended everything was fine, my son was preparing something I never could have anticipated. To understand how the night shifted, I have to rewind to the night before the wedding. After I hung up from the call with Ashley, I stood at the kitchen sink, controlling my breathing while washing dishes. I didn't realize Evan had been sitting silently behind me at the kitchen table, his pencil abandoned, his homework forgotten, and his attention fixed on my face instead. My tears must have slipped without permission because he suddenly whispered, "Mom, do you think she hates us?" His question landed in my chest harder than any adult insult I'd ever endured. I quickly knelt in front of him and held his cheeks gently. "No, sweetheart, some people care about appearances more than feelings. That doesn't mean you're bad, and it doesn't mean we don't belong anywhere." He looked into my eyes like he was studying every syllable, making sure it wasn't just something mothers are supposed to say. Later that evening, after tucking both children into bed, I sat on the edge of my own, scrolling through social media posts from relatives. So many of them couldn't wait to witness the most elegant wedding in family history. As I was putting my phone away, Evan quietly entered my room holding his small tablet hugged to his chest. His voice was calm but purposeful. "Mom, when grown-ups don't fix things, who's supposed to?" he asked. "Sometimes we can't fix everything," I answered, brushing his hair back. "Sometimes the best thing we can do is stay kind and move forward." He nodded, but his expression didn't change. But what if moving forward means someone else gets hurt later because no one said the truth first? His thoughtfulness startled me, but I assumed it came from school morals and ethics lessons. I kissed his forehead, reminded him to sleep, and watched him return to his room, unaware that his mind had already begun forming a plan. What I didn't know was that Evan stayed awake long after the lights went out. He grabbed his tablet, quietly sat inside his small reading tent, and opened the voice recorder. His first attempt was shaky. He erased it and tried again. When he spoke the second time, his tone was steady, gentle, and heartbreakingly mature. He recorded a full message addressed to Ashley. Not angry, not mean-spirited, but honest. Once he finished recording, he searched online for wedding DJ contact using the name on the invitation. He found the event company's email address and uploaded his recording with a simple message. "Please play this for my cousin at the wedding. She should know this before she starts her new life." He signed it with only his first name. Fast forward back to the wedding venue. Near the end of the evening, before speeches, the DJ approached the head table holding a small phone in his hand. He leaned toward Ashley and Derek, whispering something. Ashley froze, confusion flickering across her face. Derek looked irritated and motioned to ignore it. The DJ didn't step away. He spoke again, this time nodding toward me before gesturing at his device. Ashley looked over at me with suspicion, then back at the DJ and slowly whispered, "Okay, if it's something meaningful." The guests quieted as the DJ walked toward the stage. He tapped the microphone twice, clearing his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "this moment was requested to be shared. The original message sender asked that it be played tonight. It's personal, but important." My heart started pounding. I didn't know what was coming, but I suddenly felt cold, as if the air pressure in the room changed. Guests turned to one another, whispering. Silverware clinked against plates and then stopped. Even the waitstaff paused mid-walk. Before I could process anything further, the ballroom lights dimmed slightly and the speakers crackled. For a split second, there was silence. And then a small voice filled the room. A voice I had carried in my body. A voice I read bedtime stories to. A voice I would know anywhere. "Hello, Cousin Ashley. This is Evan," it began. The entire reception went still. And that was the moment everything shifted. "Hello, Cousin Ashley. This is Evan." The moment his voice filled the ballroom, my entire world stopped. I felt my heart slam against my ribs as if trying to escape my body. I looked around desperately, hoping the sound system was glitching or that I was imagining things. But the room had already shifted into a silent, breath-held stillness. All eyes moved from the speakers to Ashley, and then to me. Guests who were mid-sip froze with glasses halfway to their mouths. Forks stopped in the air. Even the music staff paused, hands hovering over equipment. A silence spread through the room like a tidal wave, swallowing every whisper. On the speakers, Evan continued speaking with a steady, heartbreakingly gentle tone. "I'm sorry I'm not there today. My mom told me she was excited to see you get married, even though she cried when she thought I didn't hear her. She said weddings are about love, not perfect pictures. I think she still loves you, even if you didn't want us to come." My throat tightened so painfully I couldn't swallow. I wanted to run to the stage, to stop the audio, to protect him. But my legs wouldn't move. My hands trembled under the table. I could only listen. I heard someone say that some kids ruin everything, but my mom always says kids can make things better if people give them a chance. I'm sorry if you think we might ruin your wedding, but we wouldn't. We like being gentle. A few guests looked down, suddenly ashamed. Then his tone deepened slightly, transitioning not into anger, but truth. "I also want you to know something important about who you're marrying. When Mom watched your dog for you last month, Derek forgot to sign out of his messages on her tablet. I didn't mean to see it. I just wanted to play my dinosaur game. But I saw your name, and another girl's name, and I read what he wrote. A collective gasp rippled through the room. I watched Ashley's face drain of color. Derek stiffened, then stood abruptly, gripping the back of his chair. Evan's small voice continued, soft but unwavering. He told another girl that he wished he met her first because you were too high maintenance and cared about pictures more than real love. He also said that after the wedding, he wanted to figure things out with her privately. My vision blurred. I pressed my hand to my mouth to hold back a sob. The bride's father stood up, his fork clanging loudly against the floor. A bridesmaid whispered, "Oh no, oh my God." Then the final words of the recording fell like a moral verdict. "I hope you still marry someone who loves you for real. Real love doesn't hide. Real love doesn't hurt people quietly. Real love isn't scared of kids. I wanted to tell you because I don't want anyone to be sad later." The recording ended with a soft click. No music followed. No one moved. For several seconds, the only sound in the entire ballroom was the shaky breathing of those who had just witnessed the emotional collision of innocence and hard truth. Then chaos erupted. Ashley stumbled, backward, nearly losing her balance as she faced Derek. "Is that true?" she demanded. He raised his voice, trying to cover panic with rage. "This is ridiculous. A 7-year-old doesn't understand anything." Her eyes narrowed. "So it did happen." He threw his hands in the air. "It was nothing, just messages. You know how you are, stressful, demanding, always planning like life is a photo shoot. I needed someone to talk to." The room gasped again at his tone. Ashley slapped her bouquet onto the table. "On the week of our wedding? You were lining up a backup plan?" Her mother tried to intervene with a stage-whispered, "Ashley, let's talk privately." But Ashley shook her off. "No, we're done with privacy." She turned toward the stunned crowd. "Everyone here wanted elegance. Well, you just got honesty instead." Derek tried to storm toward the exit, but Ashley's father stepped in front of him, blocking his path with a glare that needed no words. Meanwhile, I finally regained control of my body. I stood, weak-legged, chest tight, heart breaking, terrified for my son's emotional safety once he learned how far his message traveled. I felt every eye turn toward me, some sympathetic, some shocked, a few guilty. Ashley looked straight at me, but for the first time in my life, not with superiority, with humanity. For a long moment after the recording ended and the confrontation exploded, I simply stood there, unable to breathe properly. The ballroom lights felt too bright, the chandeliers too sharp, and the air too thick to swallow. I wasn't thinking about the gossip, the arguing, or even the future of Ashley and Derek's relationship. All I could think about was my son, sitting at home in his pajamas, believing he did something brave for the right reason. My first instinct was not pride or satisfaction. It was fear. I feared he would be misunderstood. I feared that his sweet, innocent heart would be blamed for truth that adults created. I grabbed my purse, whispered an apology to no one specific, and quietly walked toward the exit. No dramatic exit, no speech, no need for attention. Just a mother needing to hold her child. Before I reached the door, I felt a gentle hand wrap around my forearm. I turned to see Ashley, mascara smudged, lipstick fading, bouquet abandoned somewhere behind her. She looked nothing like the bride who started the evening. She looked human, raw, hurt, humbled, and exposed. Her voice was barely audible. "Harper, please don't leave like this." I kept my voice soft. "This isn't my place anymore. You have things to handle tonight that don't involve me." Tears welled in her eyes, and her voice cracked. "Your son didn't embarrass me. He protected me. I don't know how to thank him. Or you." I didn't know how to respond, so I just nodded once. She continued, eyes filled with guilt rather than ego. "I never should have treated you or your kids the way I did. I thought I was building something perfect. I didn't realize I was building around something broken." A tear finally escaped down her cheek. "I'm sorry." For the first time in years, her apology wasn't coded in sarcasm or superiority. It was real, and even though it didn't erase the hurt, I accepted it because forgiveness is not about excusing behavior. It's about closing wounds so they can heal. "I hope you choose whatever brings you real peace," I said gently, then walked away. As soon as I reached home, I found Evan sitting on the couch with Lily asleep beside him. Cartoons paused on the screen. He looked up at me immediately, eyes wide with anxious anticipation, like he wasn't sure whether he'd ruined everything or saved something important. I sat down beside him and pulled him close. "Mom, are you mad at me?" he whispered. My throat tightened. "Why did you do it, baby?" He took a deep breath, fidgeting with his little hands. "Because you always protect us. But nobody protected you. You cried because someone said we ruined things. I didn't want your heart to hurt anymore." I hugged him so tightly that I could feel his heartbeat against my chest. "Evan, you are never a problem. You didn't ruin anything. You just told the truth. But you have to remember that telling the truth is powerful, and it has to be used carefully." He nodded slowly. "Did I do something bad?" I kissed his forehead. "You did something brave, and brave doesn't always look perfect." The next morning, while making pancakes, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Ashley. "Called off the wedding, starting therapy. Thank your son for me." Hours later, another message came, this time from Aunt Marlene. "We need to talk." I stared at the screen without responding. Some conversations require healing before speaking. Some doors don't need to reopen immediately. A week passed, and something changed inside me. Not loud, not dramatic, but deeply. I realized that for years I accepted silent humiliation because I thought humility and peace meant never defending myself. Watching my son do what I never found the courage to do taught me something profound. Children don't learn courage from lectures. They learn it from what they're forced to witness. From that moment forward, I promised myself two things. 1, I would never apologize for my children again. 2, I would never let anyone define our worth based on aesthetics, status, or convenience. The world tells parents to raise well-behaved children, but rarely does it tell parents to raise brave ones. As I tucked Evan into bed that night, he whispered, "Mom, am I still invited to future weddings?" I smiled softly, brushing his hair back. "If they deserve you, then yes." He grinned sleepily. "Good, because I like happy endings." And in that quiet moment, illuminated by the soft glow of his nightlight, I realized something. Some children don't ruin everything. Some children save everything. Thank you for watching my story. If there's one thing I hope you carry with you, it's that dignity isn't measured by how loudly we fight, how perfect we appear, or how elegant others think our lives look. Sometimes the most powerful truth comes from the quietest, smallest voice, the voice that refuses to let love suffer in silence. Always remember, real love is honest, real family protects, and real strength doesn't need permission. If this story touched your heart, don't leave without supporting the channel. Please like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more powerful, true life stories that remind us what strength, loyalty, and love really look like. Your engagement means everything and helps these stories reach more people who need them. Thank you for being part of this journey.